Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tic Tac Taiko. There are three things that go into almost every good solo: a beginning, a middle, and an end. This week I'm going to talk about what those look and sound like, the power that they can bring to a solo, and how to put them into your solos. So whether you like to craft a solo or improvise, this week there's something for you. All right, let's start at the beginning with the beginning. The beginning of a solo is a way for you to tell the audience, hey, over here, look at me, look what I can do. I like to think of solos as a short story, and the beginning of a short story is where an author can set the stage, introduce characters, give the audience a reason to keep reading. And it's really, really important to get that attention. I can't tell you how many times I've seen an audience paying attention to something interesting that happened over here, or looking at the soloist that just finished, and they're not aware that you or someone else is starting their solo. And by the time they actually recognize that there's something happening over here, oh, hey, hi, you're a soloist, isn't that great? Half your solo is gone. They've missed out, you've missed out. So getting their attention through a big, bold opening is really, really valuable. The length of a beginning really depends on the length of the solo. A short solo will tend to have a short beginning. A long solo can also have a short beginning, but you can make it longer. However, it's really good to have a determined length in your head where your beginning actually ends. Now, in terms of what you do in your beginning, that's really up to you. It depends a lot on the song, which will determine what kind of solo you have. It will depend on you and your style, but you can play with three basic building blocks: the visual, the musical, and the emotional or intentional. What you see, what you hear, and what you feel. Maybe you want to use big arm motions, or you want to move your body around to get the eyes to watch you. Maybe you want to do something loud and bold, whether it's complex or simple. It should be clear enough for the audience to recognize it's something that they want to pay attention to. Or maybe you want to do something like ki-ai and draw the energy of the audience into your energy. And of course, you can do a combination of any of those, all of those if you want. Moving on to the middle. I like to use the middle as a way to remind the audience, hey, keep watching. I've got more interesting stuff to come. If we go back to the short story analogy, the middle can be maybe where the protagonist and antagonist first meet, or there's a plot twist, or a new character is introduced. It's further generating interest. I like the beginning to be a distinct amount of measures somewhere between the beginning and the end. Maybe just one measure, but it's not just everything between the beginning and the end. Having a distinct amount of measures helps you sort of find a platform or make an anchor point that you and the audience can both lock into. And for really long solos, sometimes you might have more than one middle. Generally for my middles, I tend to do one of two things, sometimes both. I either do something complex, complicated, maybe a little bit of showing off, a trick, or something so simple for me that I can play it in my sleep. And instead of focusing on the pattern or locking into the tempo, I'm focusing on projection or showmanship. And finally, we come to the end, not of this video, of your solo. Let's return to the short story analogy one more time. But the end of your solo is not the end of the story, it's the climax of the story. It's where the forces of good fight the forces of evil on the battlefield. It's where the scientist discovers the cure that saves the world, or someone runs into the wedding yelling, "Don't marry them, I still love you." It's the part of the story that gives you feeling, that you carry with you long after the story is over. That's what you want to try to do in the ending of your solo. As for what you do for your ending, I can't really tell you. That's going to be up to you, and the song, and the solo, and the intention, and the context, etc. Remember, you have those three building blocks to play with: the visual, the musical, and the intentional. There are some templates that you might want to consider in terms of ending a solo, like maybe one big punch at the end that's a one measure exclamation point, or maybe several measures that are exclamation points that just start hard and end hard. Maybe you want to crescendo into it, maybe you want to use a lot of repetition, and something I use, which I'll explain in a minute, is addition and subtraction. But however you end your solo, it should be authentically you. It should feel like to you and the audience, you have completed your solo, you have given them something that you're both satisfied with. All right, before we finish this segment and move into the next one, like I promised, I'm going to explain what I mean by addition and subtraction as it pertains to soloing. First up, I'm going to show you the solo ending in regular speed without commentary. Alright, I've slowed this down to about 1/3 of the speed, and we'll start with me playing essentially what is the 1 of a 4-count beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. From here, I'm adding a note. I'm playing 1, 2 of the 1, 2, 3, 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where addition comes in. And then from here, I'm subtracting one of those 4 notes. I'm taking the 4 away, but still hitting the 1 and the 2, which gives me 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And there's your subtraction. And I end with a little slow motion flourish, cherry on top. And now that you know what to look for, let's watch the ending one more time back at regular speed. Real quick here, I'm going to take away a couple of building blocks from that ending. I'm going to take away the visual, I'm going to take away the intentional, and this is what you wind up with. And I wanted to strip the end of my solo bare because I want you to see that you can take a simple idea, concept, pattern, whatever, dress it up in other building blocks and deliver something that looks impressive. All right, so we just took a look at the end of one of my solos. We're going to take that same idea and apply it to an entire solo of mine. I want you to watch my solo looking specifically for the beginning, the middle, and the end. And you may or may not be right, but being right isn't the point. The idea is simply to try to find those things so that they're easier to recognize and easier to identify in your own solos. I'm about to play you the final solo from San Jose Taiko's signature piece, Gendai ni Ikiru. Again, you're looking for the beginning, middle, and end. And then after we run it once, I'll break it down. All right, just like I did before, I brought this down to about 1/3 of the tempo, and I'm going to break down what the beginning and middle and end were as I did it in my head. We'll start with the phrase just before the solo. Everybody's going to spin, and that's what my beginning starts. Here it comes. I hit, jump away, big arm circle, and come right back. This was only half of a measure, making it a very short beginning. And here I'm going into what I consider the middle, sort of a disco pose back and forth, very simple downbeat into a spin and a spin and a spin. So you've got something very simple into something kind of showy. The 2 different options I talked about for middles. This is where I start my ending. Again, simple pattern, looks very fancy, into an even simpler pattern, just single downbeats. There's no crescendo, there's no subtlety. It's all about delivering a performance at this point. And the cue out. So that gives you a very short beginning, a rather short middle, and quite a long ending. There's a certain point when this kind of talk becomes very subjective. This works for me. This doesn't work for me. This is what I like to see, etc., etc. The idea behind this video is to give you a taste, give you an idea, help you see things that maybe you didn't consider before, or that you knew of but maybe didn't give much thought to. And if you like to craft your solo, these are exquisite, easy to use, and very valuable tools. If you like to improvise, it's still the same, you just have less prep time. And by no means am I saying that every solo has to have beginning, middle, end. Absolutely not. I've seen great solos that didn't have one or more of those components. But in general, the majority of the solos that you will see that you like will have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The more you look for them, the more you'll see them, the more you'll be able to incorporate into your own solos. And what's really, really important to get across, the last thing I'll say, if you are crafting a solo, especially, you don't have to make the best ending, the most awesome ending. You just want to start to put something down that you identify as those 3 points. They will greatly help you as you start to build and modify and rearrange your solo over time. I'm really hoping that this week's video provides a lot of value, not just to the Taiko community now, but for the players yet to come. And if I said something this week that was particularly useful, whether something hits you now or months down the line, I would love if you left a comment in the comment section below. And of course, as always, I'd love a thumbs up. And if you haven't hit subscribe, go ahead and hit that. The button's down here somewhere. And until next time, keep on practicing and be well.